Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. My name is Paul Lavoie. I'm a worship associate. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Denise Walden as our guest speaker. Pastor Walden is the faith restorative criminal justice organizer for Voice Buffalo. Many of you might know her already in your work with Voice Buffalo. In addition to her social justice work, she is the pastor of the community on the east side of Buffalo. You're not likely to find her in a regular building on Sunday. Instead, you'll find her sharing on a basketball court, in block clubs, to youth groups, and in community centers. She is honored to mentor gang members and work with women in the community, supporting them in discovering how fearfully and wonderfully made they are. To ask her, her greatest accomplishment is being a mother to her 5 sons. I would also like to extend a special welcome to three of her sons who will be participating today in our Story for All Ages. Welcome David, Jamad, and Kamari Walden. And welcome to everyone to our virtual worship. First, a couple of Zoom worship items. We can't hear you and see you, and you can't hear or see each other. You can see and hear myself and Reverend Walden. You can chat through the chat service, but we ask, and I remind you that we encourage everybody to use the settings for all panelists and all participants and attendees. And that's the blue button above the chat message bar. You can chat all through the service and after the service during our virtual fellowship hour. Note when you use the chat, Special thanks to John Petricelli, our engineer, Karen Streech, our graphics coordinator, Daniel Bassane, our music director, and all our music staff who enrich our worship together every Sunday. General Assembly is going online this year, and that makes for an opportunity for many people because it's going to be far less expensive and a very easy way to take part in worship, decision-making, skill building, and celebration with thousands of other Unitarian Universalists. We encourage you to register. The fee is $150. If you're interested in being a delegate from our congregation, please let Pastor Joan know of your interest. And if you have difficulty to pay the registration fee, please let that be known too. We have scholarship funds set aside for youth and those in financial need. Just a quick reminder that we have lots of other activities going on through the week on Zoom platforms. So please check out the newsletter and e-blasts. If you're not on our newsletter circulation, please contact the church office and they'll make arrangements. For 2 months, we have retreated to our homes to safeguard our spouses, parents, children, and other loved ones from an invisible threat to our health and safety, a threat that is as abstract and intangible as it is real. We cannot see, we cannot feel, we cannot know, but we trusted, we've followed, and we have survived. Now we are beginning to see a cautioned path towards restoration of our lives. Our reliance on our deity, our inspiration, or our better nature has perhaps been tested, strengthened, or challenged through these past couple of months. So today I call us to worship together to discover our inner voice with which we speak to the divine, our inner heart with which we hear the divine instruction, and our inner eyes to see a new purpose, place, or role for us in our lives. Please join me in repeating our chalice lighting affirmation as printed in your order of service. We gather in loving community to transform ourselves to create a more just and compassionate world. Please join us in singing Amazing Grace, hymn number 205, Singing the Living Tradition.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've lived 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Good morning. We are humbled and we are honored to be here with you this morning. With me, you see I have three of my sons, David, Jamad, and Kamari. Today, we would like to share a story with you of revelation and how it helped the family get through generational cycles and overcome. David wants to share with you about trust, Jamad, resilience, and Kamari, perspective. David?
Growing up, I had issues with trust issues, partially because of the people in my life, like my father, and just people who have done things in my life that have done wrong. But my mom, she wanted to set a different example. She put all her faith and all her trust in God. And she always wanted me to get the same thing. So then I started to search, and then one day I finally decided to put my faith and actually put my trust in God. And then God allowed people to start to move things and open doors for me, for things to become better for me and for me to become a better young man.
Jamad?
When I was born, I was very early and 1 pound. My doctor said I would never walk, talk, and see. Now, not only do I walk, talk, and see, I have a passion for music. I use music to make people happy and let them know that they can overcome things that they are going through.
Kamari?
When I was younger, I had a very good attitude, but over the years, that has changed because I lost somebody very dear and close to me. So then I started acting out being disrespectful and rebellious. But then I realized what my mom was doing for me by putting people in my life to help me get my attitude back straight and in check. And it also helps me to keep and make friends.
So my family trusts that the revelation that God has given us will lead to us being in a place and community where we can say that not just my children, but all children are well. Thank you.
Every week, our congregation takes a good portion of our Sunday morning offering and use it to care for our larger community. This week, our Share the Plate offering will be directed to Voice Buffalo. Voice Buffalo is our faith-based community organizing network. Voice empowers its members, organizations in advocacy for criminal justice, disability rights, economic justice, and immigrant leadership. You can use PayPal to make your donation by going to our website, www.buffalouu.org, and clicking on the blue donate button. Or you can send a check by mail to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo, 695 Elmwood Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14222. If yours is a gift to Share the Plate Ministry, please write share on the memo line and it will be shared between Voice Buffalo and the church operating budget. If yours is a gift towards your pledge, please write pledge on the memo line. Either way, please write UUCB on the important line and we will do the bookkeeping. Let's be generous as we empower ourselves and our community to create a world of faith, peace, justice, and love. I was taught as a child that removing your shoes when you enter a home is a sign of respect, as well as a practical way to keep one's home clean. So when Moses climbed Mount Sinai and stood before a flaming bush, it didn't surprise me that he had heard the voice of God say, "Moses, take off your shoes, because the ground on which you stand is sacred." Still, the dirt that Moses stood was no different than the dirt on the rest of the mountain. There was no dividing line or feature that separated sacred earth from the earth that was vulgar and plain. The air was the same everywhere on the mountain, and no more or less clean in the sacred space. The temperature was the same. All the plants would be indistinguishable. The creepy crawlies would occupy the sacred space just as they would the unsacred. So if you were to scratch your head and be puzzled and conclude this whole thing is in Moses's head, then you would be correct, because the invitation to remove his shoes and stand on the sacred grounds was entirely about Moses's state of mind and not about the space he occupied. It was a ritual requested by Moses's God to help him transform his mind from the vulgar and mundane to the sacred and inspired. As we sit in our homes with a little break from the everyday routine, we may easily lose track of our sense of higher self or higher purpose. We can forget sometimes that our service to those who lack equality in the world, our flame of passion for justice can dwindle or even extinguish. Our sanctuary, as it is now, is presently out of reach. Our beautiful chapel is closed. So we might ask ourselves, where do we find our sacred place? Well, we don't. We don't have to. Rather, we empower ourselves to define a sacred space in our homes, in our apartments, in the space that is accessible to us at any particular time. We do this by sacred rites that use sight, sound, smell, and sense of touch to transform our minds, to be ready to meditate, pray, or otherwise commune with God. So light a candle, burn some sage, wash your face or hands, anoint your head with oil, play some music, sing a song, recite a chant, take off your shoes, and enter your sacred space, a place of revelation between you and your God. As we reflect on the great world leaders that are often known as prophets, shamans, oracles, and spiritual guides, may we realize that these great men and women are examples, not the elite. They are more peers than they are prophets. That the ability to open your mind and heart and communicate meaningfully with your God, your deity, your higher self, belongs to you and you alone. That everyone can be their own prophet. Everyone can connect directly with God. And by doing so, we're transformed, and our purpose is also transformed.
Good morning again. So earlier you heard a story of revelation that allowed a family to overcome their generational challenges. But now I would like to share a story with you about a young woman, one who through spiritual divine revelation, not only was her life changed, but she was equipped to impact generations to come. Before I get into the sermon topic, I would like to share a reading with you. The title of the reading is One Morning She Woke Up Different. Done trying to figure out who she was based on who was with her, who was against her, or who was walking in the middle because they didn't have the guts to pick a side, she was done with anything that did not bring her happiness and peace. She realized that opinions, well, they came a dime a dozen. Validation, that was better left for parking. And loyalty wasn't a word, but it was a lifestyle. It was this day that changed her life. Not because of a job, not because someone came in and rescued her, not because she attained a new house, a new car, or many things like money, but because she had had a divine revelation. Her revelation, life was too short to continue to leave the keys to her happiness in someone else's pocket. My sermon topic today, and now I see. The woman in that reading, the woman who woke up different, her journey to a place of revelation was not easy. She came from a life where all she could see and all she thought she knew was pain. She was angry because she longed for a life of joy. She longed for a life of triumph. But all that was around her was abuse, loss, violence, poverty, injustice, oppression, racism, addiction. She would look at her community and she would look at her family with anger, outrage, and disgust. She had no hope because what was the purpose of hope for someone like her? She was lost in her perspective of her life. She felt swallowed up by a life that she did not ask for, yet she had been born into. This led to her spending a lot of time just being bitter and angry, ultimately making bad choices, taking out all her frustrations on the people in the world around her. After all, it was those very people that had caused all the pain and the hurt that she was carrying. So how does she go from this young lady that is so angry, so frustrated, so outraged at injustice, so angry, so frustrated, so outraged at the things that happened to her when she was younger? Well, she met Grace. Grace was beautiful. Grace was amazing. Grace showed her that even with all that she had endured, all the pain that was around her, the poverty in her community, the oppression, the racism, the injustices that she saw every day, the hurt and the anger that she was carrying inside, she still had some options. Grace taught her that she was more than that anger. She was more than that anger. She was more than all that outrage that she was carrying. That she, if she was not careful, would be becoming the exact same thing that had caused her so much pain and trauma as she was growing up. Grace restored her. It gave her back her hope. Grace gave her revelation that she still had a life, and as long as she had a life, she had a choice. She could now choose to either be consumed in her anger and her pain, to be defined by her bad choices and her hurt. But why? Why, when Grace had made her a promise that not only was it with her now, but it would stay with her always. And not only that it would stay with her always, but it had been with her from the beginning. You see, Grace told her that it was grace that had brought her through. It was grace that helped her overcome every situation that she faced. And it was grace that was giving her revelation. And even though she had been through some difficult times, even though she had faced some injustice, even though she had endured some trauma and some hurt, that if she wasn't careful and if she continued to blame people for everything that she'd been through, she would be causing the exact same pain and hurt that she was experiencing. It was not people's intent to harm her. It was people showing up from their place of hurt and anger and lack of understanding, just as she had done many times before. You see, it was through grace that she received her revelation that hurt people. And she could not continue to operate in her hurt. Because if she did, she would continue to lose pieces of herself and push away the people that she loved. And so all she could think about now is, what if she was causing that to other people? And what if they never had got a chance to meet Grace? Grace showed her that if she could just muster up enough courage to trust God with her happiness and her peace, and not put all of her trust and her hope in people, because, to be honest, we're all flawed anyway, she would find a way through her pain. She would find a way through the injustices that she saw in her community. She would find a way through her trauma. Grace helped her to understand the scripture in the Bible that says, "My grace is sufficient." You see, although she didn't always feel that way, and although things in her life didn't look that way, Grace taught her to look past her perception and past herself and seek the revelation that would bring her understanding on why grace was enough. And you know what? Grace was right. It was difficult and it was a hard choice for her to make, but she could decide to not let her anger, injustice, racism, oppression, hurt, and trauma consume her, and just trust that grace was with her. You see, that young woman that woke up different, that's the same woman who is before you today. She is a woman, I am a woman, proud to say that I am no longer bound by pain or anger. And I am no longer causing pain and anger because of the injustices that I saw and the traumas that I suffered. I am no longer a victim, and no longer will I victimize others. I will start to empower them. I no longer see or have a perspective from a lens of anger and hurt. And now I see that God has given me revelation so that I can understand it's possible to choose, to use everything that I've been through and everything that I've suffered to be a blessing to someone else, just as grace has been a blessing to me. Who is this beautiful, amazing grace that I speak of that brought me such divine revelation? It is the grace of God. And it is the same grace that will offer you revelation if you allow it. When we allow revelation to stop us from looking through a lens of fear, insecurity, hurt, disappointment, ignorant, bias, and anger, we start to see humanity and we start to humanize others. Yes, even those that have hurt us and have inflicted pain upon us. We start to find ways of living out God's grace, putting it into action, making it a lifestyle, just like loyalty. We begin to seek to understand people, and we stop judging them based off their pain, their mistakes, or even their bad choices. Because we understand that it is judging people that leads to the racism, oppression, and injustices, the hurt and the traumas and the lack of equity that we see in our world today. You see, it is getting to a place of, and now I see. It is divine revelation that seeks to understand, allowing us to make better choices. And it is making those choices, the choice to embrace the grace that is on your life and my life, and extend that same grace to others, even when it's difficult. It is understanding divine revelation is the only way that we can ensure that all people are valued, treated justly, cared for, and we have equity in our world. It is understanding that this is the ministry and the life that I have chosen for myself. And that is everything that Voice Buffalo, the organization that I work for, is all about. We are an organization that supports people in getting to a place of receiving revelation the same way they supported me when I was on my journey. It is a way that we learn to look past ourselves and our differences so that we can ensure that we are aligning ourselves with our bigger purpose. It is a way of teaching us to examine ourselves, to gain understanding about how we should be showing up in the world from the place that we are in right now, using everything that we've experienced, not to return hurt with hurt, but to turn it into love and healing. In closing, I would like to share with you a Zulu greeting that grounds me. It's Sawubona, meaning I see you. Sikona, meaning I am here. Ubuntu, meaning I am because we are. I offer you this greeting today because it reminds me of the divine revelation that God gave me, that if we will just trust it, we will all be seen. We are all called to be present and in beloved community with one another. And if we truly trust and understand revelation and the revelation that our existence is interdependent on one another and that I am only as good as the least of us, what a world this would be. So today, I ask you, be encouraged. Be encouraged to do the work of examining yourself, of seeking divine revelation that will create a loving, just, and equitable community where we can all say, and now I see, and all the children are well. Thank you.
As we extinguish the flames of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world, in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love. When we experience revelation, and particularly the kind of revelation that Pastor Walden spoke of, As opposed to other forms of thoughts and insights, we learn a new purpose, a new work, and a new role for our life. We understand that by this experience, we are both elevated and humbled. We're humbled because our new role requires sacrifice and service. It requires putting our work above our interests of self, and it requires seeing our smallness and reliance on others and God to address this higher purpose. Our basic human wants are sacrificed, but we also become part of the solution and part of the elevated. We become transformed, resurrected, and reborn to our new role, which, with the help of God, will over time uplift us, heal our wounds, enlighten our minds, and make us better people. Remember, you are blessed. Remember, you're a blessing. And above all else, remember you are not alone. You are never alone. So be it, blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.